Hi, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another video about Uzaki Chan. And this is episode 10. We're almost there. Got more episodes coming, but at least we're catching up at the moment. So this entire episode is a very I think this is the only one type of episode that kind of annoys me a tiny bit. But it's only because of Uzaki's actions that really get to me. But this is a follow-on to where Uzaki and Sakurai has actually come to Totori, I think it is. When you first introduced this episode, the Uzaki and Sakurai are kind of standing outside, and there's this guy just kind of walking around going there's no Starbucks here, and he's saying brand names which you wouldn't kind of associate with, but I'm guessing it's their kind of way in case you see a coffee shop or something. It's very very, very weird. You see a car just come out of nowhere and it feels like it's going to go hit them, but it doesn't. It doesn't hit them at all. They kind of park up and you see that it's Aim and Sakurai. I'm going to call him Sakurai because you've not seen him a lot in the anime, but he's now here and that's a lot easier than his first name. So it starts off that they go different places and they go in the car because it's a lot easier to drive. So they go all around and then all of a sudden, they see 7-Eleven, because that's the one that they mentioned that it's not there. So they see that there's a 7-Eleven, and oh, it is there. And then they go to these sand dunes and they start playing, and Uzaki and Sakurai end up making a bet. Who can get to the ocean first will mean that the other buys them an ice cream. So Uzaki already knew about this, so she kind of rented a surfboard, a dune board. Basically, it's like a snowboard. So she thinks she's going to win because obviously she's got speed and stuff, where Sakurai is kind of running it. But she stops because obviously it slows down and she can't get the board off enough. So he wins and she's like, no! So I think they do actually buy ice cream and stuff like that. But then you've got this couple that come up randomly oh, can you take a photo of us? And they're like, yeah, sure, no problem. It then kind of switches to the next stage where they go to a old school, which is the roundest school apparently in the area, but it was going to be knocked down, but they turned it into a museum. So they go in and they see tons of stuff from you'd see at Good Smile. So you're seeing stuff like Figma and Nemoroids, whatever they are. And Uzaki goes oh, could you buy me all this? It's a complete set. And I feel kind of bad for Sakurai because he's oh, why? And she's oh, I want the complete set to remember us by. And he's oh. Then the next one is they're outside. And this, by the way, this tour guide is completely here all the time. There's always a tour guide. So maybe she's kind of with them or just kind of pops up everywhere. So Uzaki grabs these rabbit food, this bunny thing that probably has chocolate in the middle and it's dough and stuff like that. And when she comes over, Sakurai has to pay for it because the owner or the cart's hey, you haven't paid for this, blah, blah, blah. And this is when it kind of annoyed me because Uzaki eats this rabbit thing and she thinks it's so good. And she gives the other one to Sakurai and says oh, since you paid for it, you should have one. But every single time he's about to eat it, she goes oh, don't eat my ears, don't eat my head, blah, blah, blah. And, he takes, she eats one big bite and then he takes a bite as well. And she finishes it off. And I generally kind of thought, I understand that you think that this is yummy, but you've given one to your friend, you've given one to your future boyfriend. You shouldn't just kind of eat it. Otherwise you would have said, I'm going to eat this and that's it. So that kind of really got to me a bit because I generally got angry because I was she's just kind of freeloading off this point and that's kind of really annoying. At the very beginning, she would buy food as well. So it was kind of a mutual thing, but this really kind of got to me. Then again, you see the couples again, they appear and they're taking photos. Uzaki and Sakurai haven't actually figured this out. And then they do because it's all couples. So hey, let's do this. And they're well, nothing's going on. And I think it's when they get to the shrine, that's when they figure it all out because there's tons of couples. It's little notes saying the one that you are destined to be with is right in front of you. Or this person is here, blah, blah, blah. This is when Sakai and Aim talk about this and say, this is the reason why you're here, love, blah, blah, blah. And Uzaki and Sakurai don't really like this. They're having a massive go and saying, no, this is not fair. So then they go on to this. They try and go on to this was it an escalator, monorail type thing. It's basically 2 seats. And Sakurai's like, oh, I'll go with Sakurai here. And they're like, oh, you know, they're that way instead. And they swap back, it's Sakurai and Uzaki. So they kind of get to the top and they see lots of different things. It then kind of switches to the hotel. And, you know, Uzaki and Sakurai were going to share a room together, but they don't. And so therefore it turns around, and I think this is the funniest part of the episode. So it turns around that the boys are going to share with each other and the girls are going to share with each other. When Sakai and Sakurai, damn, it's so hard to say the names together. I love it that Sakai just puts his hand against the wall. Like, it's one of those things where you see it in the mangas or stuff where the guy's really interested in the girl or stuff. It's meant to kind of cause embarrassment. And Uzaki opens the door and she's like, what? And then Sakurai's like, no, it's not what it looks like. She just pulls up the phone like that and takes a photo. And I generally started laughing because it was that comedy moment that made the entire episode for me. You kind of have like hot springs, a bath, and that's particularly it. And then the episode ends really weirdly. They go downtown where they see lots of yokai spirits and they start talking about them. I generally kind of thought that this might have been the way Sakurai and Uzaki actually talk and get together. And it feels like this would have been the kind of perfect time because they've gone, yeah, we kind of like each other, let's get together. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It's a very weird ending. You know, you see they go to museums, they go to shops and stuff like that. And again, they see the yokai spirits. And I generally was very kind of like, is this it? Because it felt like another anime, like how it ended. I think it's His and Her Circumstances, which I absolutely hate. But it felt like that sort of ending, like that they ran out of budget. But there's another episode, which is episode 11. I think this is ongoing for at least a few more episodes. I hope it gets to 24 because that would be kind of cool. But yeah, that's the episode for that one. Not a lot going on, but yeah, thought I would kind of talk about it. Wait for episode 11 to drop, which will probably be very soon. But yeah, I thought I'd leave it there. What are your thoughts on Uzaki Chan? Do you think at this point, this is when they're going to get together, or do you think it's going to be much later on in the anime? Or in the manga, have they already got together? Let me know down below in the comments. If you like this sort of content and you want to see more though, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, as well as the cheeky notification bell to be notified when more videos drop. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.